Okay, hello everyone and welcome back to World of Tanks Blitz, and today we're going to be doing a garage review of the Churchill III because for some reason I never have. I don't know how, it somehow eluded me, but yeah, I've never actually done a video, a garage video of the Mark III Churchill. I've done a gun comparison, and I've done a comparison between this and the Mark I Churchill, but I've never done one of this by itself. So that's what we're going to be doing here today of this Tier 5 Russian premium heavy tank, which is technically a British tank, but never mind. So yeah, it is a Tier 5 heavy. It has got 840 HP, which is pretty good for a heavy tank. The Churchills always have pretty high health. 830 for the Churchill, for the KV-1 rather. The Mark I Churchill only has 700. What other heavies do I have around here? I have got the T14, I know that much, which has got 750, and the 222 has got 800. So yeah, it's pretty high health for a Tier 5 heavy, which is very good. Armour-wise, 92, 92, 80 for the turret, 185 for the hull, 80, 53. However, that 185 is misleading, however. So much like how the Mark I Churchill technically has got 152mm of frontal armour, it's actually only on this area right here. And that's the same for the Mark III Churchill, where only this bit is 185mm. This bit right here is thinner. I'm not too sure how thin, but it's definitely not as thick as this slab around the hull machine gunner. Armour-wise on the turret, it is 92 front and sides, but those are pretty flat front and sides, however, which is the same issue that the Mark I Churchill has, which is that these are all flat plates, which is not very good for increasing your armour thickness, which means you will need to be angling it and wiggling it as much as you can to stop people from hitting you. The same with the frontal hull. Side scraping or front scraping, you really only want to be going around here, but then at the same time people can penetrate through your track, detracting you and doing damage to your hull, which I have done to Churchills myself. So yeah, there's lots of weird finicky things about the Churchill. But let's call the frontal armour here 90. Let's just say, I think it's actually less than that. It might actually be like 75 or something. In which case, it is the same frontal hull thickness as the KV-1, although the KV-1 is sloped and it does have stronger frontal turret and side turret. Hull's only 61. I thought it was 75. Maybe that's just a disparity between Blitz and PC. Frontal turret of the Churchill 1 is actually 127, 90, 90 side and rear, so it does actually have thicker frontal turret armour and side and rear turret armour, which is interesting. In comparison to something like the T14, T14's got 109 all-round turret with 53 all-round frontal hull. It is, however, pretty well sloped. And of course the KV-222 has got 104 frontal hull. It is a KV-3 hull, essentially. So armour-wise, it's kind of a mixed bag. Technically, it does have very strong frontal armour, but it is only on this area right here. And the turret is 90 flat, which most things are going to be able to get through, let's be honest, at this tier. Even something like the Mark IV Matilda can penetrate this with 110 pen. So your armour is not the greatest. It is also kind of misleading. You can kind of side scrape in it, which can work, but not always. So yeah, armour-wise, kind of mid, kind of mixed. Mobility-wise, of course, it is also a Churchill, 22 kilometers per hour average speed, 9.6 power to weight horsepower per ton ratio, 21 and 24 respectively for turret and hull traverse. What are you expecting? It's a heavy tank, really. It's not as well. It's worse than the KV-1. KV-1 has got better turret and hull with better power to weight, but the same top speed. Compared to the Mark I Churchill here, Mark I Churchill has got better average speed, better power to weight, the same turret, but slightly better hull. So technically, the Churchill 1 is slightly more mobile. than the Mark III. However, most things are going to be better than the Mark III and the Churchill one. The T14 has got far better average speed and power to weight, even if it does have the same turret and hull traverse. So, you know, faster there. And the 222 has got better average speed, better power to weight, better turret, and slightly worse hull. So, mobility-wise, the Mark III is really not that great, which, as you're expecting, as it is a Churchill. Now, the most interesting thing about the Mark III Churchill, especially in comparison to the PC counterpart in regular PC World of Tanks, is that the Mark III here in Blitz does get a choice of guns. You either have the British quickfire 6-pounder Mark V, or you get the Russian 76mm ZIS 96 gun. Now, your choice of what you want to use here is, well, entirely up to you, after all. However, I have got a video already comparing the two guns as to which one I prefer using, and considering the fact that I have the 76 currently equipped, probably indicates which one I prefer using. However, there are merits to both of them. I prefer the higher alpha damage of the 76, however, some people will prefer the penetration and DPM, but I say DPM, let's call it lower reload time, of the 6-pounder. So, I do have a whole video comparing these two guns. In short, higher pen, lower damage, lower penetration, higher damage. That's kind of the takeaway. Also, better accuracy. Sorry, worse accuracy than this gun, which is interesting. But yeah, I will be comparing it with the 76mm because that's what every heavy tank I have in my garage and every heavy tank at this tier uses, for the most part. They all use sort of 75, 76mm guns, which is why I will be sticking with this for the purpose of this review. So, the 76mm ZIS here has got a 3.4 second aim time, 0.33 accuracy, with a 5.84 second reload time, 110 average pen with AP, 155 with APCR, 20 HE, 160 average damage with AP, 135 APCR, 200 HE, and 8 degrees of gun depression. So, as general stats, pretty decent accuracy. Aim time is also pretty standard. Reload time is also pretty standard at this tier for this caliber of gun. Penetration, a little bit low, 110mm, you know, could be better. 155 APCR is okay, but still not great in comparison to what some of the other heavies at this tier have as standard penetration. Average damage is identical to any 75 or 76mm gun at this tier, and 8 degrees of gun depression is pretty decent. Not as good as the sort of benchmark 10 degrees, but 8 degrees isn't too bad off of the mark, especially for a Russian tank here. So, in comparison to something like the KV1, the KV1 does get a 85mm gun as its option. Here's the standard stock gun, which nobody's using past using the stock tank. So we can't really compare it to the gun on the KV1, but we can compare it to its fellow Churchill in the tech tree, which is the Mark 1. So the Mark 1 obviously gets its fantastic 75 high velocity Vickers gun, which has got better accuracy, worse aim time, worse reload time, but a lot better penetration across the board, same average damage, and the gun depression is a problem with just the Mark 1 Churchill's turret. So obviously the Vickers here has got a lot better penetration, although it is lacking in other stats, which is a bit of a problem. If we compare it to something like the T14's gun here, no, we don't want that. Here, if we compare it to the T14's M3 gun, T14 has got a lot worse dispersion, far worse aim time, basically the same reload time, does have slightly worse penetration, but it does have slightly more gun depression. And if we compare it to the similar gun on the 222, 222 has got worse dispersion, worse aim time, worse reload time, same average pen and damage, and the same gun depression. So, in general, what the gun does lack in penetration in comparison to some other heavy tanks at this tier, it makes up for in accuracy. That accuracy is very good, 0.33 which is very nice. Good for hitting weak spots, especially with a gun with slightly lower penetration. And the aim time is also pretty nice as well. 3.4 seconds is pretty good, pretty standard. 8 degrees of gun depression as well. Yeah, that's pretty good for just a tank in general. And average damage is pretty standard. So that's the main stats of the Churchill. What you're getting here is you are getting a tank with okay armour. You know, armour-wise, it's pretty decent all around. Although it doesn't excel in any particular area. You're getting relatively decent armour. You're getting a pretty decent gun. I mean, if we just for anyone who is going to use the 6-pounder, you get 3.6 second aim time, 0.35 essentially dispersion, with a 3.27 second reload time, which you will get down if you use adrenaline boost. You do get better average pen, 130, 180 with AP APCR. However, you do get the 57mm damage, which is 90 and 75. So they're your trade-offs. And I won't go into it more than that, because as you saw, basically nothing else at this tier uses a lower caliber gun than 75 on a heavy. So yeah, you're getting relatively poor mobility. I say relatively poor. You're getting bad mobility. You're getting okay-ish armour, and you're getting a decent selection of guns on it. So not too bad. Provisions, you've of course got your standard fuel, which is 3% engine power and turret traverse. You've got your condensed milk, which gives you just a flat 3% buff to your crew. And then your protective kit, which is all of these things. And you do only have 2 equipment slots, unfortunately, or provision slots, I should say, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame because you can't run the third thing. However, you just need to choose whether you want crew and mobility buffs or whether you want protective kit. I mean, it's pretty standard explanation there. With the 76mm Zis here, we do get 60 rounds of ammo, which is a nice enough. You can easily survive any sort of lengthy battle with this amount of ammo. Let's just have a look at consumables first. You've of course got your standard repair, first aid, fire. You also have your engine power boost, which gives you a 20% boost to engine power for 12 seconds. You've got your multi-purpose, which is these 3 things rolled into one. Your boost engine power, which is a worse version of engine power boost, but it is free if you don't want to spend the 500 credits that you'll make back even on a loss. Don't see why you'd really use this one when you have this one. I suppose you do have a longer cooldown for it as well, and it lasts. Just use engine power boost, man. Who needs this wargaming? Engine power boost, and then you have got your adrenaline, which decreases your reload speed and increases your chance of damaging enemy vehicle modules, which is going to be useful for the. It's going to be more useful for if you're running the 6-pounder gun on this thing, rather than this Zis gun, because you'll be able to get more shots out and have a even lower reload time, and generally it's just a fun time. But yeah, so that's your consumables. As for your equipment loadout, calibrated shells does seem relatively nice. It does get you 9mm of extra penetration, especially here with the Zis. However, I prefer going with the gun rammer just because it decreases your reload time. It gets your reload down time. Let's try that sentence again. Gets your reload time down below 6 seconds, which is nice. So I prefer going with gun rammer. Improved modules increases your track durability and decreases damage when rammed, which is useful because the Churchill's side is basically all tracks. The tracks are an incredibly useful shell absorption mechanism. They will keep you safe from a whole bunch of shells if enemies are shooting at you. The tracks do eat up a lot of shells, which means extra track durability with improved modules is always nice. You are a heavy tank, so you don't need camo net. You're going to want to go with improved optics for the extra view range, or coated optics I should say. You're going to want to go with, well, you could go with enhanced gun lane drive, because that gets your aim time down below 4 seconds. Supercharge, Does seem quite nice, especially with the ZIS, decreases your penetration loss over distance, which would be nice. However, I prefer just going with enhanced gun lane drive. Enhanced armour, you do have relatively decent all-round armour for a heavy tank at this tier, so enhanced armour is quite nice. You also don't really need improved assembly. You do have a lot of HP for a heavy tank at this tier. 840 health is a lot. So I would say enhanced armour is going to be more useful here. Going to want to go with engine accelerator because it will increase your average speed, increase your power to weight to up to 10 horsepower per ton. Also slightly increases your hull traverse and your engine power as well. Whereas improved control just buffs your hull rate flatly, which when you don't have a lot of mobility, it's better to buff. Better to buff it all in general rather than focus just on the hull traverse. So engine accelerator is going to be more useful there. Refined gun decreases your dispersion, gets you down below whatever it normally is, which is 0.39. So yeah, instead of 0.39, you get 0.33, which is a lot better. So refined gun is definitely more useful here on the ZIS rather than vert stabs. Also, enhanced tracks makes the tracks even more durable, which allows them to absorb even more shells. So enhanced tracks is going to be more useful, plus it fully repairs them after they're destroyed. So even more track health in comparison to just toolbox, which just increases flat rate. Enhanced tracks is going to be more useful, and then your choice of whatever the hell these two things are. So that is the Churchill one. Churchill III, Russian Tier 5 Premium Heavy Tank. In general, it's a decent heavy tank. It doesn't excel in a particular area, but it's generally fine everywhere except for mobility, because it is a Churchill. Churchills don't have particularly great mobility. But otherwise, the gun selections are decent and the armour is fine. So I'll thank you for watching, and goodbye.